I handed my friend $10,000 to kickstart his dream, trusting him with my life savings. A few months later, I found out he used it to finance a trip to Paris, all to impress a girl we'd both once loved. Betrayal had never tasted so bitter. I can still recall sealing that envelope, my fingers trembling with a blend of thrill and dread. Inside lay $10,000, not just cash, but the essence of everything I believed in. Mark wasn't a mere friend. He was my brother in spirit. Our shared dreams of success bound us tightly. So, when he proposed his startup idea, despite the quiet unease gnawing my insides, I invested. It was more than money. It was trust, love, and hope. Weeks later, rumors reached me about their Paris getaway. My girlfriend, my heart, had flown with Mark beside her. The betrayal hit like a knife to the gut, leaving me stranded in disbelief and boiling fury. I thought I understood friendship and love. How blind I was. In the quiet suffocation of my apartment, late at night, the silence feels heavy, like it has weight and intention, pressing against my chest as I stare at the glowing screen of my phone. It casts an eerie light over the room, stark against the darkness that envelopes everything else. My eyes, straining against the bluish glow, read and reread Mark's latest post, each swipe dicing through the facade I'd clung to. There they were, the two of them, Mark and Lisa, entwined in the embrace of moonlit Parisian streets. The iconic silhouette of the Eiffel Tower looms grandly behind them, its lights blurring around their figures, a perfect setting, as though the universe had conspired to showcase its cruelty in the most picturesque way possible. Holding hands, their fingers interlaced, the kind of connection that speaks of shared secrets and whispered promises. Their matching smiles taunt me, as if their happiness is a private joke at my expense. I can almost hear the melodic swell of an accordion drifting through the image, urging me to romanticize what I see, but all I feel is my heart pounding a discordant rhythm of betrayal and disbelief. Somewhere deep inside, I had hoped, maybe even known, Mark was beyond this, but witnessing it shatters any foolish defenses I'd constructed. The initial shock dulls to a sickening wave, rolling through my stomach, and I clutch tightly to the edge of the kitchen counter, seeking some form of grounding in a world that suddenly seems to have no solid footing. The nausea swells, and I can almost taste the bitter tang of betrayal on my tongue, an acrid reminder that this is real, that there is no waking from this nightmare. I try to breathe deeply, but my breath hitches, caught in a throat constricted with the weight of unshed tears and denial. I want to scream, to shatter the oppressive silence with sound, to break through the mocking tranquility of their duet smiles, and shatter the serenity into 1,000 painful shards. But all I manage is a raspy exhale, an aborted cry that no one but the shadows could hear. Anger burns slow, creeping around the edges of disbelief, at first just an ember of indignation, but quickly fanned into a flame by the harsh juxtaposition of my reality and their bliss. How dare they? My fingers curl into fists, nails biting into my palms, each sting a reassurance of things I can control amidst a torrent I cannot. The first tear escapes, sliding down my cheek, a cold, tangible symbol of the internal fracture occurring within. But even as that vulnerability marks my skin, it is replaced swiftly by resolve, hardening my heart against the hurt, setting the stage for the confrontation that must follow. I tap on the screen, exiting the tormenting feed, and the room returns to its shadowed stillness. Yet, inside, the storm rages on, and I know exactly what I need to do next. The clinking of glasses punctuated the low hum of chatter in the bar, a microcosm of clashing ambition and camaraderie. Mark leaned forward, his eyes wide with that particular gleam I'd trusted countless times. I remember watching him, feeling both the electric thrill of potential and an unspoken caution curling in my gut. "This is it, man," he'd said, gesturing between us with a kind of kinetic excitement that was infectious. This could finally be the big step we've been waiting for. We'd been here before, circled ideas around more drinks than I could count, but there was something different this time, a palpable sense of inevitability. Looking back, I can almost see the spark in his eyes now as an illusion, a mirror reflecting back my own desperation. "You deserve this," he'd insisted, and I sensed the sincerity in his words like a gentle nudge forward. I sipped my beer, the bubbles prickling my upper lip, buying myself a moment to think. The bar felt small, and the universe of possibility seemed to stretch wide beyond its confines. We'd known each other so long, shared highs that felt like floating and lows that seemed endless. I thought of those times, the moments we'd laughed at our own misfortunes, raising another toast to getting through another day. So what exactly are you asking? I eyed him, trying to catch any flickers of doubt hiding behind his exuberance. My heart thudded with a mix of exhilaration and dread. The memory is bittersweet now, like savoring melancholy after chewing through all the hope. Just a leap of faith, he replied, a sly grin tugging at his lips as he leaned back, confident. You're in, or you're out, but you know I'm right here in the trenches with you. I knew Mark's smile, how it thawed embedded anxieties and tangled skepticisms. It was one of those rare attributes that connected your fears to ambitions, creating a tapestry of possibility. When you say it like that, I laughed, a nervous chuckle more revealing than I intended. How can I resist? We clinked our glasses, the sound crystalline in the moment. There it was, sealed in amber somewhere. Our promise, a flash of triumph I'd clutch onto in more ways than one. Trust was everything, the kind we'd built like a fortress through battles and retreats, not meant to be taken lightly or with second guesses. I'd thrown my lot in with Mark, cemented by a faith that now felt precarious against my pulse. Now, each recollection of that night plays like film distortions, my nostalgia veiled with an acidic sheen of betrayal. What felt like a shared vision was merely my blind projection, his assurances a hollow echo reverberating through memories. There had been warmth then, real and almost tangible. But buried within was my own naivete, a silent unaware that everything I touched would one day feel so unbearably cold. I walk into the cafe, the air around me thick with the aroma of freshly ground coffee beans, mingling with the murmur of quiet conversations. My eyes catch Lisa sitting by the window, a patch of light framing her like a spotlight in a play. I wish it were just a scene, something distant, not this harsh reality where her betrayal feels like a knife twisting in my gut. As I approach, she looks up, and our eyes lock for a moment that stretches into eternity. My heart hammers in my chest, each beat a painful reminder of why I'm here. I slide into the seat opposite her, the wood creaking beneath me, mirroring the pressure building inside. Lisa, I start, my voice barely a whisper, trying to navigate this emotional minefield. Tell me it's not true. Her eyes flicker, a storm brewing beneath their surface. She opens her mouth, closes it, then finally speaks. Josh. Her voice trembles, and I'm momentarily buoyed by hope that this is some misunderstanding. But she shakes her head, cutting through that frail optimism. We're just living, Josh. Paris was never about you. Her words are sharp, precise, slicing through the last threads of trust I've clung to. The noise of the cafe fades, leaving only a hollow echo of betrayal ringing in my ears. I struggle to find the right words, the right questions, but nothing comes. My throat tightens as if I'm drowning, each breath a laborious effort to stay afloat amidst the wreckage of us. I force myself to hold her gaze, searching for any sign of the girl I thought I knew. Why, Lisa? I manage, the words raw and jagged. Wasn't I enough? She drops her eyes, fingers fiddling with the rim of her coffee cup, a chasm of silence between us. Her hesitation slices deeper. When she finally looks back, there's a defiant glint there. I needed more. Josh, I'm sorry, but it just doesn't work for me anymore. The honesty, stark and unforgiving, shatters something inside me. I thought confronting her would bring clarity, some twisted form of closure. But instead, I feel the ground give way beneath me, plunging into a cold void of despair. Her words hang in the air, heavy and unyielding. I nod mutely, pushing the myriad of protests and what-ifs aside. It's over, I realize in that moment, like a curtain closing on a performance that's played out far too long. I stand up, leaving my untouched drink behind. The noise of the cafe rushes back in, surging around me as I start toward the door, each step carrying me away from the warmth and light of what used to be. I don't look back. What's the point, when there's nothing left worth seeing? Were their smiles always that electric? Had I blinded myself with brothership to smoldering embers beneath? I mutter, as if Mark might hear me through time, through the thick fog of my own oblivion. I'm sitting in the dark corner of our old coffee shop, where dusty memories swirl like steam off a forgotten espresso. My mind plays back the scenes with cruel clarity, and I wish I could stop the reel. There we are in the park, a cool autumn day, Mark's laughter echoing among the leaves as he tosses a frisbee towards Sam. I stood between them, blissfully sandwiched in a moment that felt solid, impenetrable. But their glances, their brief, shared world, a universe away from my own, now exposes itself in hindsight as a secret dance. It was the way his eyes lingered on Mark, a softness there, that I dismissed as mere friendship. We would sit for hours on those threadbare sofas at Sam's place, talking nonsense, sipping warm, spiced cider, with Mark blending effortlessly between our conversations. There was a warmth in those nights, a safety that had seemed so real. Yet, was that security simply a clever facade, insulating me from the fire smoldering beneath? I wrapped my fingers tight around a mug, ignoring the warmth seeping into my palms, focusing instead on a patch of peeling wallpaper. The repeating patterns feel mocking, endless, a repeat of my ignorance. Mark would pat my back with a jovial, boisterous energy that seemed like brotherly camaraderie. But now, each pat feels different, heavy with a significance I didn't want to see. Hey, maybe they liked each other. I whisper to myself, the words so soft they barely disrupt the quiet around me. My chest tightens, the kind of ache that gnaws at your insides with the certainty of a truth relentlessly pressing down. Didn't I see the way Sam looked at Mark when he thought I wasn't watching? That admiring, almost reverent gaze, like tracing the contours of a reliquary. My voice hitches, echoing off the shadowed walls. Seconds pass like deep breaths. I'm tangled in the realization that, all this time, my understanding of our triangle was asymmetric, skewed by my own devotion. Mark had called them our little moments. It sounds strikingly inadequate now. Everything about him was always bigger, grander in impact. Images flash by, the barbecue under the twilight sky, jokes exchanged with whispered undertones that never carried to my ears. Mark's expressions, half-hidden smiles that connected dots I didn't even know existed. Here, in this ghost of a cafe, the silence is deafening, an orchestra of regrets tuning up for an unending performance. Suddenly, the air feels electric with an urgency, a crackling tension that snaps me back. In this dim sanctuary where every experience plays on an endless loop, I find myself standing, pushing through creaking doors into night air loaded with unshed rain. As droplets touch my skin, I know I'm stepping onto the path of uncovering whatever reality awaits. The night stretched infinitely, with me staring blankly at the ceiling. Just when I thought the numbness had swallowed me whole, a new clarity slithered through, like a switch flipping deep in my gut. I sat up, my breath catching in the stillness, as if daring even the air not to betray me. There were no more tears, no more nauseating loops replaying the betrayal over and over. What simmered was something cleaner, sharper, resolve. I slipped out of bed, the floor cold beneath my feet, grounding me in the moment. My phone sat on the bedside table, innocuous beneath the muted lamplight. I grabbed it, fingers trembling slightly as I pulled up Mark's number. I'd rehearsed 1,000 angry speeches, but tonight, conviction had its own script. It's not just money, I thought to myself, or love. It's principle. I won't be a silent casualty in their romantic epic. The night was deathly silent, every creak in the house exaggerated by the stillness. My mind, however, was a cacophony of memories and anticipations, each jostling for dominance. I could almost feel Mark's mocking smile, the dismissive turn of his head, as though I were beneath his notice. A flame burned steady inside, not like an inferno but like the steady glow of a lantern showing the way. The doors and hallways I navigated in quiet determination felt different, charged with purpose. The plan bloomed with each passing thought and step. A confrontation precise as a practiced dialogue, a dance where I refused to misstep again. The words formed himself. I would make him listen. I would stand, eyes locked on his, until he saw me, not as a footnote in his grandiosity, but as the opening of a new chapter he couldn't control. I imagined his scoff, his indifference, the way his eyes flitted to the side when he didn't care. I imagined, then dispelled it all with a breath that felt like medication, necessary. Tomorrow, his bravado would collide with my clarity. He didn't get to write the last word. Tonight, I claimed the pen. Returning to the bedroom, I sat on the bed's edge, feeling the tension start to settle into something more potent, warmer. Tomorrow, the sunrise wouldn't be just a prelude but a signal. My eyelids drooped, weighted more with determination than fatigue. When they opened again, it would be to the first day where I dictated my place in this saga. I laid back, pulling the blanket over my shoulders, cocooning the heat of my fresh determination. The night would keep its secrets just a little while longer, cradling them till dawn. With the first light, I knew I would rise something more than just the wounded. I would rise unbroken. The world around me tightened like a vice as I stood, trembling, in front of Mark. The room, alive with the afternoon sun filtering hesitantly through the blinds, felt both too large and too stifling. Silence hummed between us, thick as fog, blurring the edges of reality. I never imagined facing him would feel like this, scalding, relentless. "You've got to be kidding me." I finally spat, my voice a ragged whisper turned sharp. A twisted mix of anger and disbelief choked my throat, made speaking a clench-jaw effort. Mark shifted his weight uneasily, face pale, eyes darting like a cornered animal seeking escape. He offered no words, just a tense stillness that, somehow, betrayed more than any denial could. I saw a flash of guilt as Mark glanced away, unable to meet the hurricane in my eyes. "Look at me," I demanded, the words punctuated by the leaden thud of my heart. He hesitated, and then his gaze flickered up, brimming with something I couldn't yet name. Fear, shame, the remnants of a trust we'd once shared. "You think I don't know?" I continued, each word peeling back layers of hurt until my chest ached with the weight of betrayal. The accusation hung in the air, heavy and electric. Every late night, every excuse. "Did you think I was blind?" Mark's lips parted as if to form a defense, but nothing came out. Just another betrayal, his silence complicit with deceit. The room seemed to pulse with our shared history, nostalgic echoes now tainted and rancid. Desperation clawed at me to understand. Was this really it? The culmination of everything? I fought to keep my voice steady, even as my heart threatened mutiny. Was it worth it, Mark? My question sliced through the tension, raw and guttural, hanging there as a challenge neither of us dared to face. His eyes flicked down again, studying the floorboards like they held all the answers he couldn't find in me. But then, his shoulders slumped, that stoic facade faltering, unraveling right here, before me. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," he finally breathed, an admission rippling through the air, marked by a twinge of regret. It hit me harder than any confession, carrying truths in its simplicity that my mind had already begun to unravel. My heart twisted, a blade turning in fresh wounds. "And what did you tell yourself? Every time you look at me and lied." A profound tiredness settled in his expression, the mask slipping, showing the frayed ends of everything we were becoming. "I told myself it didn't matter," he admitted, voice breaking, emotion laying bare. "But it does." With those words, the room felt smaller, brighter, too many truths laid bare, and yet, somehow, not enough. We stood, drowning in a maelstrom of our making, the latest storm in a gathering sea still threatening to sweep us both away. The air smelled of rain-soaked earth as I wandered through the debris of my life, remnants scattered like the afterthoughts of a storm. Each step over the splinters of what I thought I knew felt like walking on glass, each shard biting into fresh wounds. I stood at the edge of the living room, staring at the phone screen, the names of my friends a scroll of memories and moments now inked with doubt. I dialed Jess first. Her voice cracked with a cautious greeting, and I knew instantly there was a hesitation that mirrored my own weariness. "Have you talked to him?" I asked, trying to steady my breath. The silence that followed was heavy enough to drown out the world. "No," she finally replied, a single word carrying the weight of shared confusion. "Not since you know." And I did know. That since hung like a specter between us, a timeline newly defined by discovered lies. We lingered on the line, each second a shared heartbeat of betrayal. "What did he tell you?" I probed, hoping against hope to find some truth in the rubble. "Same old stories," she sighed, a bitter laugh escaping. "It worked on us all, didn't it?" It wasn't just Jess. The calls repeated like a mournful chorus, voices laced with disbelief. Each conversation a mirror, reflecting the same disbelief I felt. We had been scattered pieces, strangers in our own experiences, yet the seams of our lives began to stitch back together through the shared thread of betrayal. Relief mixed with anger as the discussions unfurled, a curious alchemy where indignation became a salve. I could almost feel the chaos settling, like storm clouds breaking after relentless rain. I found myself laughing at one point, the sound jarring against the recent silence of my thoughts. "Can you believe we fell for it?" I said into the receiver, maybe to no one, or maybe to Jess again. Her laughter echoed back, raw and real, a binding in the madness. We weren't alone in our anger. Instead, we found a sanctuary there, however temporary. The afternoon light shifted, spilling across the room in warm tones that seemed almost kind after the chill of that realization. I sat back, letting it wash over me. These bonds, once torn, now found a curious resilience in shared wounds. Where we thought to find emptiness, we discovered strength tempered by collective pain. By the end of the day, as dusk fell, I felt different. Not whole, but less fragmented at least. The night didn't seem quite so daunting anymore. We were battered, yes, but not broken. Together, we'd begin to heal. And as the first stars appeared, a faint glimmer against the dark, I held on to that thought tightly. The promise of what might yet be rebuilt from what was shattered. The room is sepulchral, a mausoleum for the dreams I've buried here. Stains mar the walls, shadows of former dreams. I breathe in the heavy scent of stale air. It presses against my chest like a vice. Mark and Lisa, their faces still float behind my eyelids when I dare to shut them. It's infuriating to know they've taken so much space in a place they never even entered. I walk over to the cracked mirror hanging unevenly on the wall. The glass fractures my reflection into pieces, as if the universe is reminding me that I'm a fragment of who I used to be. A laugh bubbles up, bitter and sour. "Paris," I whisper, catching my own eyes in the broken glass. Paris stole my dreams, but not my spirit. I touch the rough wood of the dresser. It's worn, like me. Memories surface. Us dancing in Montmartre under the vibrant sky. Promises folded into 100 paper airplanes. I let them fly, and they soared right into the Seine. But screw that. I have more paper and a hell of a lot more time to craft planes that will fly higher, farther. A quiet defiance stirs in me. I pick up a pen. As it sits against the blank page, the silence spills over me, warm as a forgotten sunbeam in December. I draw one line, then another. My hand moves with a grace I thought I'd lost, a testament that the art still lives within. Every stroke wipes a little of the past away, redefining the horizon mark and Lisa attempted to write. In this moment, alone and defiant, I realized their presence was merely a subplot, a storm to weather. Beneath the despair, a whisper of resilience has always simmered. Mark and Lisa won't define my horizon. I will. Every disappointment sharpens the view, the line between what I want and the havoc they've sown. I put the pen down, feeling its weight lift from my fingers. I back away from the paper, watching the image emerge, a sketch of a Paris they can't taint. A place where dreams revive, and I am whole again. I feel it pulse within, like a second heart. I find myself heading to the window. The city buzzes beyond the glass, unknowable and indifferent. I envy its nonchalance. But now, standing here, I'm part of it, a silent witness to this relentless churn of life. A certainty unfurls, quiet but firm. With each breath, the wounds close a little more. My decision finds me here, among the crowd of chance and choice. I'll stand resolute as the pattern shifts. I'll navigate this concrete labyrinth with my own map etched into my heart. It's time to step out of the shadow and let myself crash into that horizon. The dawn seeped through the cracks of my blinds, brushing the edges of my desk with gold-tinted light. It was a momentary pause before the movements of the world caught up, and I let myself breathe it all in. The scent of new beginnings mingling with the faint aroma of the coffee brewing in the kitchen. I had cleared everything the night before, every document and shackle that tethered me to past obligations. The desk, once a battleground of chaos and memories, now lay pristine, a clean slate. Each empty space on its surface whispered promises of things yet to come, untainted by history. My heart, though still carrying the faint echoes of uncertainty, felt lighter somehow. This time, it's my call. I murmured to no one, the words tasting unfamiliar yet soothing in their finality, as if speaking them sealed a declaration to the universe, or at least to myself. There was something inherently powerful about taking control, about deciding for once where my feet would lead. I stood by the window, letting the warmth of the rising sun soak into my skin, a soft embrace sending shivers through me. Tiny flecks of dust danced in the air, suspended in the beams of light, like little reminders of where I'd been and what I'd left behind. But I was determined they wouldn't define me, not anymore. The horizon was painted with strokes of orange and pink, and as it shifted into something clearer and brighter, so did my resolve. I pressed my palms against the glass, cool under my touch, a tangible barrier separating me from everything outside, yet grounding me to my place inside. A place I was making my own again, piece by piece. Memories flickered through my mind. All the decisions made too late, the dreams deferred and forgotten in the shadow of someone else's demands. But in the harsh clarity of this morning, they seemed distant and powerless, like phantoms of a past I was ready to leave behind. I gathered the stacks of paper, the journals filled with cramped, frantic handwriting, and placed them carefully into a box. They didn't belong on this fresh path. They were relics of a life I was learning to step out from. With each item packed away, a new breath inflated my chest, possibilities expanding like the morning light across my room. The world outside began to hum with life, and with it, so did I. I felt the pull of the day's potential, the beckoning of a road untraveled. I wanted to seize it, to mold it into something wholly mine. As I turned away from the window, brushing past that hopeful light, I stepped forward into this new day, unburdened, unchained, and ready to face whatever lay ahead. The shadows of yesterday slipped further behind, and in their place, a new horizon loomed, waiting to be explored.